What if I told you that Iran, yes, the modern-day country of Iran, plays a crucial function inside the Bible's grand narrative of prophecy in world activities? Regularly, when human beings consider the Bible, they focus on Israel, Egypt, and Babylon. However, what if I told you that Iran, acknowledged as Persia in biblical instances, become now not simply some other empire, but a country mainly named in prophecy to shape the future of God's selected human beings? Iran's biblical starting place story is more fascinating than you could comprehend. From the lineage of Noah to the reign of Cyrus, the Excellent, the history of the Iranians is interwoven with some of the most pivotal moments in biblical records. But the in reality surprising revelation is that God used Persia, a state of pagan kings, to supply Israel, rebuild the temple, and satisfy prophecies that were spoken centuries earlier than they came to skip. In this video, we'll explore how the Bible, well known, shows the foundation of the Iranian human beings, their upward thrust to electricity, and their critical function in shaping the Antique Testament and prophetic visions of the destiny. Buckle up, because what you are about to study will alternate the way you view Iran, no longer simply as a state of the current international, but as a key player in God's unfolding plan for the whole international world. To apprehend Iran's biblical roots, we must return to the tale of Noah and his descendants after the excellent flood. Noah's 3 sons, Shem and Japheth, became the ancestors of all of the international locations of the earth, in step with the table of countries in Genesis. One of Japheth's sons became Maddi, the progenitor of the Miz. The Miz might later end up intently related to the Persians. Collectively, they shaped the inspiration of the Medo-Persian Empire, one of the maximum effective empires in global history. Modest descendants, the Emps, settled within the region that might come to be cutting-edge day Iran. The Persians, emerging from the same geographical vicinity, could rise to prominence later. However, both groups shared a not unusual Iranian ancestry. So in accordance to the Bible, the ancestors of the Iranians come from Japheth through Madda, which places the Iranian people in the biblical narrative from the very beginning of post-death flood records. This connection hyperlinks the Iranian human beings to one of the oldest genealogies within the Bible, and units the degree for his or her great position in the records of God's human beings. Rapid ahead numerous centuries, and we discover the upward thrust of Persia, a country that could play a critical role within the biblical narrative. The MSE and Persians formed an alliance underneath the management of Cyrus, the outstanding who based the unit empire. Additionally regarded because the First Persian Empire, at its peak, the Persian Empire stretched from the Indus River to North Africa, encompassing many of the predominant regions stated inside the Bible, including Israel, Babylon, and Egypt. However, Persia's significance goes a long way past its military and territorial may. Its importance lies within the manner God used it to satisfy his promises to the Israelites. The Babylonian Empire, believed by means of King Nebuchadnezzar, had conquered Jerusalem in BC, destroyed the temple, and brought the human beings of Judah into exile. The Israelites remained in Babylonian captivity for years, as prophesied via Jeremiah. Then got here Cyrus, the remarkable Persian king who conquered Babylon in BC, and with him the entirety modified. The e-book of Ezra opens with a decree from Cyrus, allowing the Israelites to return to their land and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. This occasion is recorded in Ezra, where Cyrus publicizes, "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all of the kingdoms of the earth, and has appointed me to construct a temple for him at Jerusalem." In Judah, Cyrus, a pagan king, was named over a century in advance through the prophet Isaiah as the only who might perform God's will to repair Israel. Isaiah. In one of the most incredible moments in biblical records, Persia, stayed outside of God's covenant, have become the tool of God's redemption for his people. This marked a profound turning factor for Israel and highlighted the principal function of Persia in God's divine plan. One of the most great factors of Persia's biblical legacy is the position of Cyrus the First-Rate. In Isaiah, God refers to Cyrus by using Colmore, then years earlier than his beginning, calling him his shepherd who will satisfy God's functions. In Isaiah, Cyrus is even referred to as God's anointed, a name normally reserved for kings of Israel. How ought to a foreign pagan king be called God's anointed? The solution lies in God's sovereignty and his capacity to use everyone, even those outdoor of his covenant people, to perform his will. Cyrus's decree to permit the Jews to go back and rebuild the temple changed into no longer just a political circulated turned into a prophetic success. The prophet Jeremiah had foretold that the Babylonian captivity might ultimate years. Jeremiah, and Cyrus's upward push to electricity marked the stop of that period. The rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem, beneath the management of Zerubbabel, with the blessing of Cyrus, became a key step in the recuperation of Israel. God had used Persia no longer best to defeat Babylon, the country that had oppressed Israel, however also to facilitate Israel's rebirth as a kingdom. This became a reminder to Israel and to the global that God's plan is far extra than any one empire, and he can use even the maximum unlikely figures to result in his purposes. Persia's position in biblical history would not end with Cyrus in the rebuilding of the temple. The e-book of Esther provides another powerful example of ways Persia became utilized by God to shield his people, all through the of King Xerxes. The first additionally called Ahasuerus in the Bible, applaud turned into hatched by means of H-man, irreputable inside the Persian court, to exterminate the Jews dwelling within the empire. Hun's hatred for the Jews drove him to control the king into issuing a decree that would permit for their annihilation, but through God's providence, a younger Jewish girl named Esther had emerged as the Queen of Persia. Encouraging purple by using her uncle Murai, Esther took a formidable and dangerous step by approaching the king and revealing her Jewish identification, pleading for the survival of her humans. Esther highlights the famous phrases of Murai to Esther, who is aware of but which you have come for, your royal function for this kind of time. As this Esther's intervention ended in a dramatic reversal. King Xerxes, upon mastering of Haman's tray, ordered his execution and a brand new decree was issued, allowing the Jews to protect themselves in opposition to their enemies. This story, recorded in the e-book of Esther, is celebrated annually in the course of the Jewish festival of Purim, as a reminder of the way God used Persia, and particularly Queen Esther, to maintain the Jewish humans. The story of Esther is one among divine providence and protection. Once more, Persia, even though overseas empire, have become an instrument via which God's human beings were covered. God's hand changed into obtrusive for the duration of the tale, the use of the Persian Empire as a backdrop for this outstanding deliverance of the Jews from annihilation. This in addition demonstrates how Persia, although not part of the covenant humans of Israel, persevered to play essential position inside the unfolding of God's plan. Persia wasn't merely a passive observer. It became a lively participant in making sure the survival of Israel, in nation destined to bring about the Messiah. The Bible would not simply talk approximately Persia's ancient role. It also places Persia at the heart of prophetic visions about the future of worldwide empires and God's ultimate plan for humanity. One of the maximum effective examples of this is located within the book of Daniel. Daniel, a Jewish prophet who lived at some stage in the Babylonian exile, served inside the courts of each the Babylonian and Persian empires. In the e-book of Daniel, we encounter numerous visions that reveal the upward thrust and fall of empires, inclusive of Persia in Daniel. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon has a dream of an excellent statue, manufactured from distinctive materials, every representing an international empire. The silver chest and hands of the statue constitute the meadow. Persian Empire, which could be triumphant. Babylon is the dominant energy inside the ancient global. Later in Daniel, Daniel himself has a vision of 4 beasts, representing 4 successive empires. The second one, Beasta Endur, raised up on one facet, represents the Medo-Persian Empire, symbolizing its twin nature, the mixed energy of the MSE and Persians. This empire might be full-size in its expansion, particularly underneath Cyrus, would forever alter the route of history. Any other big vision involving Persia as determined in Daniel, wherein the prophet sees a ram with 2 horns, one horn representing the MS. In the alternative, the Persians charging in all instructions, conquering vast territories. However, the vision additionally includes a goat with outstanding horn, symbolizing Greece and its king Alexander the Top-Notch, who would ultimately triumph over the Persian Empire. Those visions place Persia on the heart of God's prophetic timeline, displaying that the empire's upward push and fall have been not accidents of records, however a part of God's divine plan. Persia's time of have an impact on was prophesied to present manner to the upward push of Greece, but it became at some stage in Persia's reign that God's people skilled deliverance and recovery pleasant. The prophecies of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. Though the Persian Empire felt Alexander the Fantastic in the 10th century BC, its have an effect on persisted, to be felt in the course of the time of the brand new testimony. By the point of Jesus' start, the Persian Empire were changed via the Greek and later Roman empires. However, the legacy of Persian tradition, governance, and management left a lasting impact at the historical global. One of the extra mysterious connections among Persia and the New Testament is the story of the Magi, the sensible guys who visited the little one Jesus in Matthew. Many pupils consider that the Magi have been, in all likelihood, from the region of Persia and may have been Zoroastrian clergymen, a part of an historic religious tradition in Persia that practiced astrology and decoding omens. The adventure of the Magi to worship the newborn king of the Jews highlights Persia's enduring connection to the biblical tale. Even after the autumn of the Persian Empire, the information traditions of Persia persisted to influence the ancient Near East, and it was Persian scholars who identified the importance of the star that heralded Jesus' star. Additionally, Persia's legacy of tolerance toward various cultures and religions could set the degree for the spread of Judaism, and sooner or later Christianity. At some point of the Roman Empire, the aimed Persian Empire became recognized for permitting its subjects to hold their non-secular practices, a policy that could affect later empires along with Rome. This environment of non-secular freedom contributed to the flourishing of Jewish communities during the area and laid the foundation for the eventual unfold of the gospel. As we carry this exploration of Persia's biblical rule to a close, it is essential to bear in mind Iran's future. In light of biblical prophecy, many students and theologians trust that Iran, acknowledged in biblical prophecy as Persia, will play a key function within the activities of the end instances. One of the most vast prophecies related to Persia is discovered in Ezekiel, wherein the prophet describes a coalition of nations so that it will someday come in opposition to Israel inside the remaining days. Amongst these nations is Persia, which will be part of forces with Gog of Magog and other international locations, in a massive battle regarded because the struggle of Gog and Magog. This prophecy, frequently visible as an occasion yet to occur, depicts a final disagreement between the forces of evil and God's human beings, with Israel on the center of the struggle. Even as the precise nature and timing of this conflict continue to be topics of debate, the inclusion of Persia, modern-day Iran, in this prophecy shows that Iran's have an effect on inside the area will keep to have spiritual importance. Ultimately, instances, moreover, Daniel's prophecies about the upward push and fall of empires, which include Persia, factor to a broader subject matter of God's sovereignty over the international locations. Persia's position in biblical prophecy demonstrates that no empire, irrespective of how effective, is outside of God's manipulate. God raises up international locations and he brings them down, all according to his divine plan. As we witness modern-day events in the Middle East, which includes tensions among Iran and Israel, it is vital to keep in mind that these events are a part of a miles larger story, a tale that commenced inside the pages of the Bible and will culminate inside the success of God's promises. The story of Persia Cutting Edge Day, Iran inside the Bible, is one of the most tremendous examples of how God can use even the maximum not likely countries to satisfy his divine functions. From the descendants of Japheth through Mahdi to the upward push of Cyrus, the amazing Persia played a pivotal function in biblical records, from the restoration of Israel to the protection of the Jewish human beings within the Book of Esther. However, Persia's importance does not give up with its ancient position. The prophecies of Daniel, Isaiah, and Ezekiel remind us that Persia was part of God's large plan, now not best for the countries of the beyond, however for the future has properly. Iran's location in biblical prophecy factors to its endured role in the unfolding occasions, main to the give-up instances. As we have a look at the modern-day world, especially the tensions involving Iran and Israel, it's critical to approach these events with a biblical angle. God's sovereignty over the nations means that each state, every empire, and each leader is part of his plan. The tale of Persia is a testimony to the fact that God can use even foreign powers to fulfill his guarantees and bring about his remaining plan for salvation. Persia, now Iran, keeps to have a profound effect on the sector level, and its connection to the Bible reminds us that records is greater than the upward push and fall of empires. It is the unfolding of God's plan for the redemption of his human beings in the sector.